I've been thinking about something. If I lost all my English tomorrow, there are 6 specific things I'd do differently, starting on day 1.
6 things? Like what?
Imagine you wake up tomorrow and all your English is just gone. Every word, every phrase, everything you've ever learned.
That's horrifying.
Right? But if that actually happened to me, I don't think I'd start with vocabulary or even open a textbook right away. I think I'd do something most people would never consider.
No way. What would you do instead?
I'd stop trying to study English and start trying to live with it instead.
Okay, I need to hear this.
Today, I want to walk through exactly what I do and why almost everything I do looks nothing like traditional language learning. Welcome to Easy English with PJ, real English for real life. I'm PJ, and with me, as always, is Logan.
I'm genuinely excited for this one because I think some of what we say today is going to surprise you.
Let's get into it. So, day 1. All my English is gone. Most people in that situation would immediately download an app, open a dictionary, start memorizing words. I understand that instinct. It feels productive, but I wouldn't do almost any of it.
Then what?
I'd spend the first couple of weeks almost entirely on sounds. No vocabulary lists, no grammar, just listening to English and trying to copy what I heard.
Honestly, that sounds like a bad idea. If you can't read anything, how do you actually learn?
That's exactly what most people think. But here's the problem. The moment you see a word written down, your brain kind of jumps to pronunciation. And it uses your first language rules to do it, which are usually the wrong rules for English. So you're building the wrong sound in from the start, and that's hard to undo later.
Okay, but how do you make any progress without reading anything?
You listen, and you copy. I moved to the US when I was 5. I didn't have a textbook. I didn't have an app. I just heard English everywhere I went. At school, outside, on TV. And my ear figured out the sounds before I ever learned to spell a single word. That's actually the natural order. We've just been taught to flip it.
So the sound has to come first. Then the spelling makes sense.
For me, yes. And I think it holds for a lot of adult learners, though people find their way in different ways. But when the sound is there first, spelling is just a code you're cracking. You already know what it sounds like. When it's the other way around, you're kind of guessing. And a lot of those guesses are wrong. So what I'd actually do is find one native speaker I liked, a podcaster, a YouTuber, anyone, and just listen. Not to study, just to let my ear get used to how English actually moves.
And then when you do start reading, the words actually sound like something.
Right. The spelling just confirms what you already know. It doesn't tell you how it sounds. And once my ears started catching those sounds on its own, that's when I'd move to the next thing. Learning words the way they actually live, not one at a time. Here's something that took me a while to figure out. A lot of learners know hundreds of words, but still can't hold a real conversation. And I think I know why. It's about how you learn them. Instead of one word at a time, I'd learn them the way they actually live, in real phrases.
Hang on. Isn't learning individual words just how vocabulary works?
That's the assumption, but think about it. Nobody says just run. They say, I need to run, or the meeting ran long, or can you run me through that? Same word, completely different meanings. If you learned run in isolation, you'd have no idea which version to use, or when.
Wait, so the list doesn't really help when it's an actual sentence?
Not really. From day 1, instead of agree, I'd learn, I totally agree with that, and we agreed to meet at 3. Instead of sorry, I'd learn, sorry about that, and sorry, could you say that again? These are real building blocks, and the difference is you can use them immediately. That day, in a real exchange.
I learned that the hard way. I had this whole vocabulary list in Spanish, hundreds of words. And then one night I went out to dinner and I was trying to tell the waiter I was embarrassed about something. And I said I was embarazada,
Which means pregnant.
which means pregnant. I am not pregnant. I have never been pregnant. The waiter just stared at me, and I smiled and nodded like that helped.
And you will never mix up embarrassed and embarazada again.
Never. Burned into my brain. But here's the thing. If I had learned those words as part of a real phrase instead of just a translation on a list, I would have known how to use them correctly the first time. The context is part of the word.
Exactly. Your brain grabs a chunk off the shelf. It doesn't have to build a sentence from parts every single time. You're not studying language anymore. You're handling it. Here's a quick check. Think about how you've been learning vocabulary. Individual words with translations, or full phrases you can drop into a real moment.
If it's been mostly single words, that's not a character flaw. It's just what most apps and textbooks teach. But starting today, you can make the switch. Every new word you learn this week, learn it in a full phrase. Let's keep going.
Here's one that sounds strange the first time you hear it.
I want to say something here, actually, because this next one is something I resisted for a long time.
Go ahead.
Someone told me to try shadowing in my first year of Spanish, and I thought, that seems like a waste of time. I'm not learning anything. I'm just copying sounds like a parrot.
And?
And I was wrong. Here's what shadowing actually is. You find a short clip, 30 or 40 seconds of a native speaker. You play it. Then you play it again, and you try to say the words at exactly the same time as them. Same speed, same rhythm, same pauses. You're not translating. You're not studying. You're just copying.
What changed your mind about it?
The feedback. When I practiced alone, I had no reference. I'd say something, and I had no idea if it sounded right. Shadowing gave me a target. I could actually hear the gap between their voice and mine, and I'd adjust. There was one Spanish podcast host I used for 3 weeks straight. I knew his phrasing so well that eventually I started noticing when I sounded like him, and that feeling was genuinely exciting.
Because it wasn't a test score. It wasn't a streak on an app. It was a real physical experience of sounding like a natural speaker.
Exactly. And you could hear it yourself, in real time.
For English, the same thing applies. Pick one speaker you like, a podcaster, a YouTuber, anyone who speaks at a pace you can almost keep up with. 10 minutes a day. Your pronunciation starts to shift without you ever thinking about a rule, and your ear starts to catch the places where English speeds up, slows down, runs words together.
The key word is real person, not a textbook recording.
Right. Real speakers breathe, pause, trail off. That's the English you're actually going to hear out there. One thing worth saying, shadowing works best when you at least roughly understand what the clip is about. You don't need to catch every word, but having some context helps your brain connect the sounds to meaning, not just copy them in the air. This one took me longer to figure out than the others.
What is it?
I'd stop measuring study time and start measuring English contact time.
What's the difference?
Study time is the 30 minutes you spend with a textbook or an app. Contact time is every moment during your day when English is actually present, in your ears, in front of your eyes, in your hands. A lot of learners only count the first one, and then they wonder why progress feels slow.
So you want more English in the day, not just in the study session.
Exactly. And the practical version of that is smaller than people think. If you're comfortable with it, change your phone language to English. You don't study it, you just navigate your own phone. Notifications. Suggested. Swipe to reply. Dozens of real words hitting your brain every single day, without any effort.
I changed my phone to Spanish about 4 months in. It felt overwhelming for maybe 2 days. Then I stopped noticing it. But I'd absorbed a huge amount of vocabulary without ever sitting down to study it.
That's contact time working. And there are two more easy ones. Leave an English podcast playing in the background while you cook, commute, make coffee. You're not actively studying, your ears are just in English. And label a few things around your home, your desk, your window, the kitchen counter, so that every time you look at something, the English word is already there, without having to go through your first language to get it.
So you're kind of building English into the day, whether you think about it or not?
That's exactly it. Most learners try to increase motivation. I'd rather increase exposure. Quick one. If you had to make one change to your environment this week to put more English in your daily life, what would it be? Phone language? Labels?
A specific podcast in the background? Think about what's actually realistic for where you live and how you spend your day. One change. Just one. Just notice what comes to mind.
Here's one that might sound like it doesn't belong in this conversation.
What is it?
I'd write in English every single day.
Writing? I came here for speaking advice.
I know, but here's the thing. Most people think speaking practice starts when you open your mouth. I think it starts earlier. It starts when you learn to express your own thoughts. Because if you can't find the words when you're writing, slowly, with time to think, you definitely won't find them when someone's looking at you, waiting for an answer.
Okay, that's a different way of framing it.
Writing kind of shows you what you can actually say and what you still can't really get out yet. It's like a rehearsal, but slower, so you can actually feel the gaps. When you write, "Yesterday I went to the," you have to finish that sentence. You have to decide what word comes next. You feel where the gaps are. And then the next time that situation comes up in a real conversation, those words are a little closer to the surface.
I've seen what happens when someone doesn't do this. There was a guy I worked with, Carlos. His reading in English was excellent. He could read a news article no problem. But in meetings, he'd mentally check every sentence before he said anything. Was this word right? Was the grammar okay? And by the time he felt ready, someone else had already said it.
That's the proofreading trap. The sentence is perfect in his head, but invisible to everyone else.
Exactly. And writing probably would have helped. Because writing forces you to actually release the sentence. You don't get to keep it perfect and private.
So, what does this actually look like? 3 sentences. About your actual day. Got coffee. It was raining. My commute took forever. Done. That's grammar, vocabulary, and a real complaint without opening a grammar book. A voice memo transcribed. A comment on a YouTube video. A message to a friend. Any format. The only rule is that it comes from your real life, not from a textbook exercise about hypothetical people in hypothetical situations.
That's what Carlos needed. Not more input. Just the habit of releasing the sentence.
And once you start doing that every day, something shifts. The words are a little closer to the surface, because you've already had to find them once, on your own, without anyone waiting.
Before we get to the last one, has there ever been a moment where you wrote something in English, a text, a comment, even a note to yourself, and it just felt right? That feeling when it comes out naturally and you didn't have to struggle for the words? Sit with that for a second, because that moment is not luck. That's the system working.
And the last one. This is the one I got the most wrong when I was starting out.
What did you do?
I practiced alone for a long time before I let anyone hear my output, and my logic felt reasonable. I'll get better first, and then I'll ask for feedback when I have something worth feedback on. The problem is I built habits during that time. Pronunciation habits, phrasing habits, Weird little patterns that felt natural to me because nobody ever reflected them back. And then when I finally did get feedback, some of those habits were already set.
How do you get good feedback without it feeling like a test?
The most useful kind of feedback isn't someone correcting every mistake. It's finding one person, a language exchange partner, a tutor, anyone, and asking them one specific question. Something like, "Did you understand me clearly when I said that part?" Or, "When I said this phrase, did it sound natural?" That's it. One specific question. Not, "Tell me everything I did wrong." Just one thing to check.
One thing at a time.
Right. And here's the difference it makes. I think about a woman named Priya. She moved to the US for work. When she arrived, her grammar was not great. She mixed up tenses. She used the wrong prepositions sometimes, but she talked. She talked to her coworkers at lunch. She asked questions in meetings. She made mistakes out loud. And she asked people, "Did that make sense?" And she listened to what they said.
And let me guess. 8 months later, she's fluent.
8 months later, she was one of the clearest communicators on her team. Not because she suddenly got perfect grammar, because every real conversation fixed one small thing. And she knew which things to fix because she asked.
That's the opposite of Carlos. He had the English. She used it.
That's the whole thing. And that's the thread running through everything we've talked about today. Every single one of these. Sounds, chunks, shadowing, contact time, writing, feedback. They're all ways of spending more time with English instead of studying it from a distance.
The embarrassing moment is the lesson. The conversation where your grammar was wrong is the lesson. Priya's lunches where she mixed up her tenses, those were the lessons, not the review sessions afterward.
6 things, and they all come back to the same idea. Less time studying English from the outside, more time actually living with it. Fast.
1. Sounds before spelling. Train your ear first. Pick one speaker and just listen for the first 2 weeks.
2. Learn in chunks. Real phrases, not isolated words. If you can use it today, learn it today.
3. Shadow a real speaker for 10 minutes a day. Not textbook audio. A real person. Let their rhythm get into your mouth.
4. Change your environment. Phone language, labels, background listening. Make English part of your day, not just part of your study hour.
5. Write 3 sentences in English every day. About your real day, no essays. Just your life in English before midnight.
6. Get feedback early. One specific question to one real person. Did that make sense? That's enough to start. You know what's a little funny? Neither of us actually gets to start over. Nobody does. The first years are already gone.
Yeah.
But tomorrow morning, you can wake up and learn English differently than you did yesterday. A different order, a different habit. One thing that fits the way language actually works instead of the way textbooks present it. And honestly, that's pretty close to starting over, just from where you already are.
Which means you don't need to wait. There's no right time to change the approach.
Here's your challenge. Pick one thing from today, just one, and do it before you sleep tonight. Shadow one 30-second clip. Write 3 sentences about your day. Change your phone language. Ask one specific feedback question. One thing. And come tell us in the comments which one you picked, because that answer is going to help someone else in this community figure out where to start.
If this gave you a different way of thinking about your English learning, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. New episodes every week to help your English work in real life. And share this with someone you know who's been studying English for a long time and still feels like something isn't clicking.
And remember, you don't need to start over. You just need to start differently.
Pick one thing. Start tonight.
See you in the next one.